Happy Diwali to you and advance Merry Christmas. Now, Diwali is a season wherein everybody wants to learn something new, something innovative, something different. Now, this is one of the best times to learn how to make Christmas wines. Christmas is around the corner and it takes about a month to make the wine. So today would be a perfect day to start your winemaking. Pick up a new hobby, pick up something new, so that at the new year time, by when the COVID scare has reduced, you'll be all set, you'll be all ready, and you will be able to create the perfect new hobby to showcase to your friends when they come in to meet you. So we already have received about 18 questions from various viewers. We are starting with them. So buckle up, be ready. The first question that we received is just a minute, please. Yeah. The first question we received was from Shivalik on how to use a siphon. Now, before that, I'll just take a small detour and ask you, why do we need a siphon? It is very easy that you take a funnel and you pour your beverage in the funnel. But if you, as you can see, in this process, you are going to introduce a lot of CO2, a lot of the CO2 will get expelled, a lot of oxygen will get introduced, and as a result, your wines will get oxidized. Now, to prevent that, we use a siphon. Now, the benefit of siphon is that it will take just a minute. So this is a siphon. This is the auto siphon raking cane that is available at Aristam. You can also find them at various online stores, Amazon and everybody. You can pick and choose whatever siphon you want from wherever you are comfortable with. The science and the philosophy will not change. So coming back here, right? So the reason for the siphon is that the siphon will go, you can introduce the siphon in your brewing vessel. Assuming this is your fermenter, you can introduce that and it will suck air, it will start pulling in the beverage from the bottom. So as a result, there is no swishing, there's no swelling, and the CO2 blanket, which is naturally formed on top of your wine and freshly fermented any beverage, is not getting disturbed. So the CO2 blanket will prevent oxidation and you can transfer it using gravity. So no pump is required, no machinery is required. You can transfer it from one vessel to another vessel. Now, this siphon has a lot of parts. So first is a long tube. As you can understand, this is this is the same tube that you would be using when you are trying to take steel or borrow your petrol from your scooter. So you would put one end on the tube and the second end in a small container, and you can suck it from here. But the sucking action will introduce contamination. It will introduce microbes which will come from your spit, and also if you are telling your friends that you sucked and you sampled it, somebody says jhuta ho gaya. They may not like to drink it for whatever reasons. So as a result, we have putting this siphon. Now this is first part. The second part is a long this long plastic tube which is called the cane. The third part, and these are inside. Now these, just a minute. Yeah, here. So these are the small parts which are inside here. So, by the way, if you for those who just joined, if you have any questions, any queries, please feel free to write in the comment section. We will be more than happy to help you out here. So this is a small spring. It's a tapering spring. It's not just a regular spring. It is a tapering spring, and this is a ball. This ball acts as a ball, and it comes inside this thing. So we keep the ball here, and then post the ball, we are going to keep that the spring. The spring, remember that that small end has to be go inside, and here is the second thing. For now what you have to do is, suppose this is your jar filled with the liquid. You push it inside. When you push it inside, the pushing action will put the ball up, and this ball, when it goes up, this entire tube gets filled with your beverage. But when you pull it up, without, because of the weight of all the liquid, the ball is getting pushed inside. So I repeat, this ball will get pushed at the bottom. It will lock here, and the ball will get closed. The spring will also ensure that this ball is always closed. So so when you pull it up, this whole thing gets filled with the beverage, then you push it once more. When you push it once more, it will start flowing in. This flowing in action, you can attach a tube here, right? And it will start flowing in the tube. And here, and just like how you steal your petrol from your scooter, 2-3 times if you do it, this tube will get filled in, and from the other end, your water will start flowing in. Test it with water before you test it with wine, and from the other end, you can keep your small bottles like this. You can keep the bottles. You can put this tube inside these bottles, and you can start filling in. Once it's almost filled, you can hold it with your finger, and you can move to the next bottle and the next bottle and the bottle after that. So this is how we use a cycle. So I'm keeping this aside. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Now comes to the second part. Okay. So what's the second question? The second question is how to seal using a crown bottle cap. As you can see, these are question and answer sessions. So since these are question and answer sessions, so we are skipping to a lot of the basics and we are jumping straight away to the problems that people are facing. Now, there are two types of crown cappers that are available. This is a small portable type. This is there. And the second type would be the bench capper. It's a big Hulk bench capper that will be there on the website. You can, again, as I said, this is the same technology. You can find these cappers at various stores. Aristom.com is one of the stores wherein you can find them. It does not matter where you buy it. As long as it works, you are great. You can use a standard bottle. If you are not sure whether this bottle will fit in, you can measure it using your scale or something. This outer cap should be 26 mm, 26 mm, which is 2.6 centimeters, a little less than an inch. You keep your silver crowns. So these are called blanks. You keep them on top of it. If you don't want to keep it on top of it, most of the crown cappers come with a magnet. See, it has attached to itself here. So this is a magnet which helps makes life really easy for everyone. So coming back, I am going a bit faster. The reason is there are 18 questions and only 60 minutes. But do feel free to write in the comment section if there are any questions, any supplementary things we will be answering. I'm okay to go through the same things 3, 4 times, 7 times, whatever is comfortable, as long as it is helpful. So we see this has automatically attached. We keep your crown here. Then we allow these two jaws to exactly come inside. And then we pressurize them and we push it. See, it should be horizontal. When it is horizontal, you know the crown is capped. And then we pull it out in the same way. And you can see, voila, your caps are sealed. Just a minute, I'll just do it once more because since I was demonstrating, it was not coming. Yeah. Voila, your caps are sealed. It's tight. Okay, so this is how we use a crown cap. Now, since we are at the topic of bottling, I would also like to highlight one more feature. Now, in the West, you would have seen these wine bags, which are there, which are also called wine bladders. So these are 3-liter wine bladders. These are silver in color. The reason is silver also gives you some sunlight protection, and they come with a tamper-proof tap. Now, a lot of you plan to take up a license now or in the near future, and when you plan to take up a license, you need to get all the testing done, you need to get the sampling done, you need to send it to various laboratories and to your investors. Now, when you are transporting it, sometimes transporting in a glass bottle, though it looks elegant, the problem is there is a whole logistics involved in packing a glass bottle. A simple and more robust way would be to use a wine bladder. These are 3-liter bladders, which means about 4 full-size 750 ml bottles would come inside one bladder. So what you can do is you can fill it. You can put a funnel here, and you can start filling in. And then once you are done with it, just make sure to expel all the air, and then you firmly attach this. This, as you can see, is tamper proof. There is a tamper seal here, which will prevent that that while transportation, A, it does not leak, B, nobody has tampered with your samples, so there is a chain of custody which is maintained, and you seal it tight. Once you seal it tight, the only way to take it out is by opening it. Another advantage is often people like to sample over multiple meetings, which means that they will draw a small sample now, and after a few days they'll draw another sample. Like that, they would like to draw. The problem with wine is wine tends to get oxidized. So if you have opened up a wine bottle, you would know that after 2-3 days, the wine starts turning sour. The taste changes, everything, the aroma changes, all the properties get changed. But in this, it is only sealed, which means that there is no way the air can go inside, and only the amount that you require will get expelled of the beverage that is expelled out. So this can be utilized for multiple meetings, multiple experiments that you can do. So FSI and most of the laboratories which do beverage testing for you, they love these bladders. So do send them in these bladders. Right, and you can check on the Google how you can even house it inside a box, in a carton box. So if you house it inside a carton box, these will stand up vertically straight, and you press this button and you pour the exact amount that is required. So if there are any more questions, just about bottling, just talk about it. Otherwise, we are moving to the next thing. Yes, you can use corks as well. You can use screw caps as well. The problem with the screw caps we have found is once the cap is opened, most of them are not very tight, which means that some amount of oxidation happens. Corks are great, but you need to be able to find a cork. You need a corker. If you're able to do that, there are a lot of videos on the website to help you how to cork and perfectly seal your wine bottle. Now moving to the next question. So Binay, I hope I had answered your question about how to use a crown capper. Next is haze and clarity. Now, so for this, what I'll recommend you is we have a few video. You can search on the website. There are about close to about 200 odd video tutorials, free video tutorials on the website aristom.com, which talks about various aspects of it. But I'm going to talk briefly about how the haze and clarity and how do you remedy that. Now, firstly, you need to understand why why your wine has not cleared. Typically, on its own, give it about 30 days. Most of the wines clear naturally. But if it has not cleared, it could be because of various reasons. The first and the foremost reason would be yeast. Now, if you had bottled the wine early, which means the fermentation had not stopped, it will continue to ferment. So as it is fermenting, more and more yeast gets produced, and since these yeasts are active, they would be suspended all over. And you would, and when you taste it, you will also get a little bit of bready notes in your wine. Now, to remedy that, there are multiple things you can do. First thing would be using gelatin. Now, gelatin, as you know, when you dissolve it in a hot water, it becomes very very sticky, slimy substance. Now, that attracts all the yeast cells which are suspended in your beverage, and it makes them larger. So, because all of them are flocculated or attached together. Now, after that, you do a cold crashing. Cold crashing means at 4 degrees Celsius or lowest point of your refrigerator. Do not freeze, but just above freezing. If you transport your wine bottle there, or these large particles, these suspended particles, they will start falling down on their own. This is called cold crashing. About 24 hours of cold crashing is what is required, and most of the wines will get cleared. So this is because of yeast suspension. The second reason why some of the wines are not clear is because of pectin. Now, have you seen the peel your grape? When you peel your grape, there is something a gelatin like a ball, which is squishy ball inside, white color ball. So that is the core of your grapefruit. Now, what keeps all the cells and the entire structure together is something called pectin. By the way, don't confuse pectin enzyme with pectin. Pectin is added in jams and jellies artificially, even some kinds of food colors to make it thick like a jam. Here, our job is to remove it because this thick substance will cause haze. Now, to remove the pectin haze, we use pectin enzyme or pectinase. Now, when you add a pectin enzyme, and we typically add this right before we just fresh when we pulp the grape. So what it does is it breaks down this pectin bindings between the various cells, and while it breaks down, it improves your extraction efficiency. That means more and more fruits, more and fruit aromas will come out. The second benefit that it'll does is it'll make your wines a little bit more clear. The third thing that you would have heard a lot about people talking about is bentonite. Bentonite is one of the oldest form of fining agent that is used. You read about bentonite as early as Roman era, which is about 2,500 years ago. They were using bentonite. This is a volcanic clay which is mined from the mines. You have to hydrate it. All the So when you go to the bentonite on isham.com, you'll get the detailed videos of how to hydrate. I'm just going here superficially on the top processes. So you have to hydrate it for about 4 hours. Some books recommend 24 hours, some recommend 4 hours. Pick whatever works for you, but minimum 4 hours of hydration is required. That will hydrate it. Now, when you add it to your wine, and we typically add this early, this is in the primary fermentation because it takes about 10 days for it to complete its action. It will attract to all the positively charged particles in your wine. So when it attracts to the positively charged particles, it will go attached to it, it will make them bigger, and it will suspend it down. The third thing that a lot of people use is isinglass. For the vegetarian folks around there, I would like to highlight to the fact that isinglass is made from the inner linings of the fish gut. So if you're vegetarian, you can use agar glass, not so effective, but that's the only closest substitute that you have, or you will have to use isinglass. Again, it is used in very, very minute quantities, like half a gram per liter, so 5 gram or sometimes even less. And it clears out by attaching to the negatively charged particles. Bentonite to the positively charged particles, and isinglass to the negatively charged particles. Isinglass is also used in lager beers, the homemade lagers beer specifically, to make them very clear, photo perfect. So it's used across. I think we sell in 5 gram packets. So 5 grams is good for a lot of your wines and beers. So don't worry about it. But use it sparingly. There are a couple of other fining agents which are there. You can find that more. But if you are able to use these 4 fining agents, the first is cold crashing, second is gelatin, the pectin, then comes your isinglass and your bentonite. These 4-5 agents, they are sufficient to clear 99% of your wines, 99% of your fruit ciders, most of your recipes. Now, so Shivalik, I hope that I have answered your question. Now comes Siddhi's question. So she called all the way from Kota about how to use the keg. Now, for those of you who do not know what keg is, keg is a pressurized vessel. I hope I'm visible here. Let me just adjust. Yeah, I see. Yeah. So you can see this is a Corny keg. Okay. It comes in two form factors. This is a 19-liter keg, and one comes which is half the size, which is 9.5 liters or 2.5 gallon kegs. It has 4 attachments on top of it, and and an oval lid. The benefit of this oval lid is that unlike the carboys, your entire hand can go inside, and you can clean all the way to the bottom, and it is easy to clean and maintain. Now. The keg has two outlets. One is in, one is out. The in is for the CO2, and the out is for your liquid. And you need to purchase these connectors. These are 2 different color connectors. And on top of the connectors, it is written what is it. So the black connector, as you can see, I'll just show you here. It is written liquid. Can you see liquid? Yeah. So the liquid connector will go in the out section, which is the beverage section. Okay. I have not attached it yet. I will tell you how to attach it. And then the second connector, the white connector, this is the gas connector. And here the gas is written. So you can attach it to the CO2 thing. Uh, for the beer brewers, you can also attach it to the nitrogen and N2. You can find the nitrogen cylinders also in the medical stores and medical supply stores. Most of hospitals also have a nitrogen. This is used for the inert blanket. This is not attached. So what you have to do is, firstly, you have to pull this up. Okay, this has a spring inside. So you pull this up, and then you have to push it down, all the way down. And when you push it all the way down, it automatically clasps down again. So I'm doing it again. So this is not attached again, but you have to push it down. When you push it down, it with a click noise, it gets attached. I'm doing it here again. See, you push it down, and then this is attached. And you can see I can lift the entire keg from this. This is not coming out, so it's firmly attached. These kegs can hold 120 psi. To give you a rough idea what 120 psi is, your car typically you fill at 30 psi. So this is 4 times the car pressure. It can withstand a lot of pressure. Okay, the attachments to this, they are always very tight. So you do not find a pipe which is loose, because if you find a pipe which is loose, then that pipe, when you pressurize it, it will get separated. You've seen your bathroom, your garden hoses to get detached, and then it becomes a mess all over. You don't want it to happen with your precious beverage. Okay, so make it tight. And if you find it's too tight for you, what you can do is you can take the end, put it into a pan of boiling water for about 2-3 minutes, so that it softens a bit, and then you have to do it. It takes about 5 minutes for you to attach these the pipes to these connectors, and you can remove it and attach it. And once you're attached, then you are good to go. So I hope Nidhi, I have answered your question about how to attach a ball lock keg. Now, why do we use a ball lock keg? The ball lock keg is used for multiple purposes. For first purpose is it is a great vessel. So if you're doing something like a temperature controlled fermentation, if you're trying to replicate, make a wine in summers, for example, then you would like to regulate the temperature. The best way to regulate the temperature is you keep it in this stainless steel vessel, and the stainless steel vessel can be fit into a refrigerator, any 165-liter refrigerator. It can also be fit into something like a ice cream chest, which the Amul chest and the quality ice creams that you'll be getting. So it can fit into that. It's very easy to stack. So you fit it there, you set the thermostat to your required temperature, and you're able to do a very good temperature control. Then secondly, if you're making something like a champagne, I know champagne has to be made in Burgundy, but you can make an Indian clone of the champagne or a sparkling wine, whatever you can call it. So if you are making a champagne, then you need to pressurize it. We typically pressurize sparkling wines to about 16 psi, 16 psi, not 60, 16 psi. 16 psi is on the higher side, but that will give you really, really good fizz and those micro bubbles. So if you are trying to do at 16 psi, so that time putting into a pressure vessel makes sense. You could also do it in the champagne bottles, but the champagne bottles with the bulb cork is going to be a very tedious and cumbersome activity. It's great for gifting, but if you all you want to do is host a party. Excuse me, can you just turn off the this thing tab, please? Sonam, can you please turn off the tab? Tap on the Banika. Okay. Yeah, so if you so sorry about this. So what we're talking about is, if you are trying to serve it in a party, then you can put it there, and with the beer lines, you can attach it to a nice, beautiful tap, and you can serve a sparkling beverage into for your friends at a good party. And another advantage is, since it has a CO2 pressure inside, you don't have to empty the entire keg in one go. You could probably take a week or a month to empty it out. The CO2 blanket will prevent any oxidation. So you use it only whatever quantity you require. I hope that answers your question about the kegs. If you have any more, please feel free to email at brew@aristom.com. Let me just check once more quickly if there are any emails. Yes, there are a few, but we'll cover this towards the end. Let us first cover the guys who have already taken the pains to write back the questions beforehand. Now comes in, how do you measure the alcohol? So there are multiple ways to measure the alcohol. Let me pull out two of them. So they are what we call is hydrometer. If you go to the market, you'll most probably find something like this. This is a hydrometer. It's a flotation device. Okay. Now there are two different hydrometers. One is called the alcohol hydrometer. That alcohol hydrometer is for distilled spirits only. That means it is used by FSCI. It is used by laboratory labs for distillation. Now, if how the excise department and the FSI measures the alcohol content is by distillation. What they do, they will put it into a high school chemistry. If you remember your 10th, 12th chemistry laboratories, so you can distill the liquid, and when you distill it, only the vapors come out. You condense those vapors. Alcohol being lighter, it will distill first. You condense it, and then you take about 50 ml. So this is a 50 ml distillate spirit, and you can put it inside. Now, if you have taken 250 ml of your wine, distilled it, and only drawn 50 ml of concentrate, so that means there is a 5x concentration power. 250 divided forms 50, so 5x. So since it's 5x concentration, now you're going to measure the alcohol content. Now, if the alcohol content, and remember one thing, alcohol density is a non-linear scale. You can see that the lines are not even. So you measure the alcohol quantity. If it is 50%, 50%, that means that because of the 5x concentration power, your original wine had only 10% alcohol. If it was 13% alcohol, which your wine had, which a lot of commercial wines in India has, then this would be 65%, 65%, right? 65% would be reading somewhere here. Okay, so this is the exact method which is used by the FSI and the excise department to measure the alcohol. The second method was called indirect method. Herein we use a guidance. Okay, we use an approximation. When we say approximation, does not mean that it is inaccurate. It's just that this is convenient to use, but it is not as per the FSSAI and the excise department. Okay. Just remind me if I forgotten that I need to be covering about the laws about fermentation as well. So I'm going to take in some water. This water can be your beverage as well. I think I had too little of it, so I'm going to use some more water. Just bear with me for a minute. Okay. So you can use any beverage for that. Matter of fact, keep it inside a tray. Now, one thing that we always do is we want it to overflow a bit. Here, since we are in the class, I'm not making it overflow, but typically I would recommend you to make it overflow a bit. Now you see some bubbles here on the beaker, so you shake it so that all the bubbles go away. See, the bubbles is all gas, so it may modify, and then you measure the density. Now this was water, so you can see that it is right at the dividing line between yellow and red. Okay, you have to read the lower meniscus, and it reads 1.00 exactly. Now your wine typically, when I start, is 1.1, but you can start anywhere point for 10%. 1.080 is a perfect start. 1.080, which is also called 80 points. So this is on the specific gravity. This is called triple scale because it has 3 scales. The second scale is the potential alcohol. This is potential alcohol. Potential alcohol does not mean that this is the alcohol content of the wine. It means this is the potential of how much alcohol it can create by fermenting all the sugar here. The third scale is going to be a Brix scale. Now the Brix scale means how much percentage of sugar is there. It's nothing but a fancy way of saying 10 bricks is 100 grams of sugar per liter. 1 bricks is 10 grams of sugar. So that much is there. Sugar could be from your grape juice, or could be coming from a fruit juice, could be the table sugar that you have added, the glucose that you have added, all those various combinations that you have done. Now you take the initial reading, which is called the OG. So here in this case, for simplicity, I have assumed it to be 1.080, and you take the final reading, which would be which in a dry wine would be less than 1. It will be in the red zone. For a sweet wine, it will be in the yellow zone. So you take the final gravity, you take the initial gravity, and you subtract the two. So that is the gravity point. So if your initial gravity was 80, 1.080, and your final gravity was 1.000, your during fermentation you drop 80 points. 80 points correspond to about 10% alcohol. If it had been 100 points drop, it would have been slightly higher. It would have been about 13% alcohol. So like that, you calculate it using this. So these are the two methods. There's another method, which is a refractometer. You can use that. Refractometer will only measure your initial gravity, which is the sugar concentration in your fruit juice. The final gravity can be measured, but for that you need to do alcohol, a lot of compensation factors. It becomes complicated because it measures the refractive index, and during fermentation, a lot of organic substances are made. Each of them would be altering your refractive index slightly. So I would not recommend you to use a refractometer for the final one. So coming back, I hope this answers your question about how to measure your alcohol. Now moving to the next question. If you have, I repeat, if you have any more questions, you can drop in a message at the Facebook page. That is one of the simplest ways. The other method could be you can email us at brew@aristom.com. Now, since we were talking about FSCI, we were talking about excise, let me just talk a little bit about the winemaking laws. So, irrespective of which part of the country you are in, few laws are sacrosanct. Firstly, you cannot, and I repeat again, you cannot do any commercial activity in wine or alcohol beverages or anything related to alcohol without getting a proper license. From excise, from local authorities, whatever is the authority that is applicable to you, you need to get it for the commercial activity. Okay, so you cannot sell it, you cannot serve alcohol in a commercial in a party in which there is an entrance ticket. So all those are considered as commercial activities. So that is completely prohibited. The second activity would be you cannot make some very large batch sizes. If you are making a batch size which is considered by the excise authority as a commercial activity, which means that you're not making it for your own purpose, but to give it to your friends, to sell it, etc., then you'll be a problem. So each state will have a differing law about what is considered as a commercial quantity. So you just make sure that you are below that threshold. If you are below that threshold, the sales tax, excise, and all these commercial activity related laws will not get triggered. The third, and also the third activity would be you cannot transport alcohol across state boundaries. So we talked about sending samples. If you are sending samples, you have to mark it out, you have to call it out, you have to put a label on top of it, you have to tell your shipper that they are liquids and there's alcohol you're transporting, you have to declare it. So and their taxes and everything which are paid, which your courier guys will handle it for you. But there are laws around it. So but the plain and simple, don't try to ship your alcohol across state boundaries. If you have returned back from Goa or from Pondicherry ever, you would know that your vehicle will always get inspected. The reason it will always get inspected is because alcohol is a law subject to state laws. So each state, the law changes, and they don't want laws from outside, which they, for some reason, is called an imported beverage, even though you are transferring from one state of India to another state of India. But law has to be followed. The last aspect, which is sacrosanct across, is you cannot do distillation without permissions. Some laboratories are allowed, but laboratories have all the clearance, all the certifications which are required to do limited quantities of distillation. At home, if you're doing it, yeah, please remember there is heat, there is flames, and there is alcohol. Alcohol vapors. Alcohol vapors are explosive. and you have flames and alcohol vapors close together to each other, it can create a potentially hazardous situation. So please do not try to do distillation, create vodka, whiskey, brandy, rum, whatever name you can call it, gin, at home without getting proper licenses. Apart from that, there would be some state specific laws, like states like Gujarat, states like Bihar, and some parts of northeast, you're not allowed to have alcohol there. So just follow that. Certain religious states like Tirupati, which is close by Vaishno Devi, so there in those districts are also called sacred districts. So you can't have any alcohol production related activities, even commercial activities, industrial activities which use alcohol, you need license. So just be aware of the local laws. If you are in doubt, talk to your lawyer, talk to your CA, talk to your government licensing, or just walk into the nearest government office. Be aware of the laws and try to follow it. We are not here to promote the law breaking. What we are here to promote is the art of craft beverage, the art of finding your right flavors and making sure that you have something which matches your taste palettes. Now, coming to the next aspect, which is hydrating yeast and which yeast to select. So I'll take the second part first, and this is Basil's question. Okay, I just a minute. I think I kept my yeast somewhere. Just a minute. Yeah, sorry, it was there. I had kept my laptop on top of it. Apologies. Okay, we at Aristam we have various kinds of yeast. Few of the ones we just arrived. So this is the sparkling wine yeast. Just a minute, I can't. Yeah, this is sparkling wine yeast. This comes in 10-gram packets. This is the red wine yeast, which comes in again 10-gram packets. This is in 8-gram packets. Yes, the packet looks a lot more smaller. This is a sweet rice wine, and this is a dry rice wine. So these four is here. Apart from that, there will be turbo yeast, and there will be some Aristam branded yeast as well. So there are tons and tons of different varieties of yeast. Feel free to experiment with different kinds of yeast, different stains. However, if you are confused what to choose, my simple rule of thumb is find out what is the flavor that you are looking for. Are you looking for the sweet flavors, a high alcohol tolerance? Are you looking for phenolic flavors, rich in full bodied, rich in phenols? What kind of a flavor aroma balance that you're looking for? Find an yeast which is designed for a recipe which is closest to your what you are looking for. Just to give you an example, if I'm making red wine, I would use that. But if I'm making sparkling wine, champagne, I would use this. If I'm making fruit cider, again, fruit cider, I would prefer to do this rather than using something which is high in phenols, because then this will become dry, and Indians don't like, many Indians don't like dry ciders. So yeah, I'll use that. If I'm making meat, then probably I'll go for here, because this has a full bodied aroma. Meat typically lacks a full bodied, so you would want a wine which will improve the aroma. So like that. And similarly in the rice, find what you want. If all you're looking for is a high alcohol tolerance, then turbo yeast would be something that you want to use. Yes, you can use baker's yeast as well. Baker's yeast can also produce alcohol, but is it that you want? That is a question that you need to ask. And another problem with baker's yeast is when you start making dry. So if you are making sugar, see, with sugar is a great masker for taste. So when you're making this, a lot of the bad aromas, off flavors, a little bit of bitterness, all these are hidden. But when you start making it dry, and that's how most of the good winemakers do, they first make a dry wine, and then they find ways of how to add spices to it, how much level, what's the right number of back sweetening, is the residual sugars to be added. They compute it later on. So when you're making it dry, it is better to use a proper wine yeast. It's not so expensive, but yeah, choose what is closest to you. Now coming to the hydration part, right? Never sprinkle yeast straight away. The reason is India is a warm climate. Almost all of these yeasts are imported. Wherever you pick it, the yeast are important. So there's a long supply chain. It either went through an air cargo or sea cargo, wherever, then went through the postal system or the courier system, all without refrigeration. There's a high chance that the yeast has gone bad. Now, if you pour it directly in your wine, then your wine on your fruit juice, it'll take you a couple of days to realize that the yeast was not working, and by then it might be too late and the contamination would have started setting in. So the best way would be you hydrate the yeast first. Now, most of the online tutorials will recommend you to use warm water. Please understand those videos are meant for Europe, America, which is pretty cold, and they do winemaking in the winters, wherein the temperature is just barely above 0 degrees Celsius. India is a warm temperature, so as long as your water, and I'm sure your room temperature water is 25 degrees Celsius, as long as the water is 25 degrees Celsius, it's good enough. You do not need to heat the water. Use some sterilized water. So to sterilize the water, you can boil it and you can cool it down. But cool it down to the room temperature, 25 degrees Celsius. Example, your body is 34 degrees Celsius, which is 98 Fahrenheit, right? So if it feels warm, then it is too hot for the yeast. Please understand that. So at room temperature, you pour in the packet of yeast. So if you are using a 10-gram packet of 10-gram packet of yeast, you take about 100 ml, so 10 times. You pour it inside and you wait for about 10-15 minutes. You would see the foam coming in, a lot of bubbles coming in. So that is called proofing of yeast. It's very similar to the proofing of yeast that you do for baker's yeast. It's the same process. If you start seeing foam coming in, yes, you are golden. Your yeast was active. You pour it into your fruit juice, your grape juice, and your fermentation will start. Okay, I can go on and on. So if you're getting bored, please stop me. Okay, now let's move to the next question. So Basil, I hope I did answer your question. Now, what is the difference between yeast nutrient and yeast energizer? Now, herein, let me start with a very small detour. Is why do we need yeast nutrients and energizers? Just a minute, I'll just come. All right. See, you would have realized one of the biggest problems with fruit juices is fruit juices are very low in protein, which means that it does not have sufficient nitrogen, it does not have sufficient phosphorus, it does not have sufficient ammonia, all the basic building blocks which are required for microorganisms to live and thrive. Right? If you do not have the right nutrients, you will not create a very robust, strong fermentation. Your yeast colony would not be strong, which means that either your fermentation will not be complete, B, you may end up with a lot of off flavors, or C, you may even get contamination. So it's very good. It's important for you that you need to have a healthy colony. For that, we use some amount of yeast nutrients. Now, the difference between yeast nutrient and yeast energizer is yeast nutrients is designed to diammonium phosphate. It's a food grade diammonium phosphate which is designed to promote an yeast colony at room temperature. Yeast energizer is to prevent stuck fermentation. Stuck fermentation, which means that your fermentation did not happen or did not get completed. So that will have a little bit of micronutrients inside, a little bit of vitamins inside. The whole idea is if you are doing lager, low temperature or winter fermentations in the Himalayas, which is low temperature fermentation, it will give the yeast the required amount of boost which is needed for it to complete. Or if because you had a high gravity fermentation, which means your hydrometer reading was very high, it was 1.130 or even higher. That's called high gravity wines. So if you're making high gravity wines, chances are that the wine did not finish. So adding a little bit of yeast energizer will help you increase the alcohol tolerance level. Okay. Again, use them sparingly. There are laws about it. I think you can check on the Google, but it is 1 gram per liter is the maximum amount that is legally permissible. That being said, half a gram per liter is considered sufficient by most counts. I'm sorry, we are 45 minutes into the whole session and I have only covered how many? 6 of your questions, 6 of your 18 questions, 19 questions now, considering the walk-in questions. So please bear with mind, we'll extend it a little bit later, or if required, we are going to break it into 2 sessions, 1 session for today and 1 session for next weekend. But we will try to cover as much as possible. Now moving to the 8th question, baker's yeast versus wine yeast. I think that I covered it, Xavier. But if you have any more questions, just let me know. Now, carb oil substitute. This was a question by Mohan. So, what he was planning to use was a Bisleri 20-liter jar for fermentation. Yes, you can use that Bisleri 20-liter jar, but the biggest problem is how you're going to clean it, how you're going to sanitize it. Your hand will not go inside. So, we have yeah, you can use a pickle jar, a smaller jar, but large size jars are difficult to get. We have this 30-liter flat bottom fermenters, which are preferred by a lot of winemakers. The reason is it comes with a two-part lid. I'm just opening it for you. So it comes with a two-part lid, right? So this lid will sit inside that, and on top of it, there's a second screw seal. So with these two seals in the gasket, you create a very tight seal. So this is here. And second thing is, it has these small ports. These small ports are for the sampling. You can attach various things like a siphon inside. You can draw your samples using these ports. Okay. But the biggest advantage of this is it has a very large base, which mouth, which means I can easily go clean the entire thing when it's done. If you're using a 20-liter fermenter, these water cans, you will not be able to use that. Secondly, I do not know what grade plastic they were made from. Okay, it comes with a few other attachments. I'll just quickly walk you through those attachments. Okay. First attachment is this thing. This is a neat sticker. It will read the thermometer. Now it's pretty hot there on Diwali nights, Diwali day, so it's 30 degrees Celsius it's reading. So whatever is the temperature, it will start glowing up. Now since I've held it, yeah, the temperature went up, so 34 is being glowed. This is a water level marker so that you know how much liquid is there. And this is an airlock. Now the airlock, this has a port for the airlock already. It will just fit inside here. And once you fit it in, it is completely sealed. So you are good to go. So this is for the airlock. Okay. There are other fermenters also. Just check ariston.com. Therein we have an ultimate guide to fermenters, wherein we have told about the pros and cons of 7 different kinds of fermenters. So stick to whatever works for you. As long as the end product, the end beverage is something that you, your family, and your friends like it, you are golden. Don't worry too much about it. Okay. Now moving to the next question. Okay, grape selection for Red Christmas, right? Wine and Goan port wine. Now, what I would say is, ideally you would want wine grapes, not table grapes. The difference between wine grapes and table grapes is wine grapes have a very thick thick skin, which means that it has a lot of color, a lot of tannins with them. One, secondly, they are very sour. So even though they have high alcohol, high sugar content, they also have very high acidity. The acidity helps in preventing mold infection when you are fermenting. But if you are able to get from a local winery, and if you are living near Nasik or Bangalore, then you are in luck. Even in Uttaranchal, to a certain extent, you are able to get very good grapes. But if you are outside these 3 regions, it is very difficult for you to get good quality wine grapes. Don't sweat it out. You can get Bangalore Blue, which is there almost all over the country. So from there, you can make a very good Chardonnay wine, or any kind of a black grape. You can use that. You will be able to make a decent wine. Don't worry about it. You will like it. Your friends will like it. You can be as snobbish as you want when it comes to the entire process and your grape selection. But end of the day, we are practical hobby brewers, and practical hobby brewers look for convenience, look for ways in which it is economical and it is faster to make a decent product. So don't sweat it. There is a guide on the website in the video tutorials, Grape Varieties of India, which talks about 15-20 varieties of grapes. There are photos also there, so you will be able to identify it from the market what grape variety is there. The properties of them are mentioned there. Now, selection for fruits for sparkling cider. Now, for sparkling cider, you can make from any fruit that is available. My favorites would be your apples, from which you can make a cider, pears, perry. The third, my favorite would be your pineapple. Pineapple, you can ferment it in 2 different ways. You can use the rinds, which is the skin of the pineapple, to make something called a Mexican tapache. Tapache recipe would be there on the website. Or you can use a core, which gives you a lot more fruity aromas. So pick and choose what you want. These three would be my favorites, but you can experiment with kokum. Don't experiment with beetroot so much because beetroot tends to give a metallic flavor. But if you're okay with it, it gives also deep red color, which is good for photo shoots. So you can use that. You can practically use any fruit that is available as long as it's not a dry fruit or an oil fruit. Dry fruits means almonds. You can't make an almond wine. If that's the question that you are trying to answer, right? So any fruit which is sweet, which has a good sugar content, can be fermented and made into a decent wine. If you are making fruits which has very little flavors, for example, I'm calling out like watermelon, I'm calling out lychee. So these two fruits, it is you can pair it them with something with the flour, with you can pair it them with another fruit, so that the balance, the body, the alcohol level, the aromas, all of them are balanced, and you make something that you would appreciate. And now the next question was selecting the right strain for yeast and pitching it to a juice. We have covered that. How to prevent oxidation by airlock. We did talk about the fermenter, but we skipped about the airlock. So let's talk about the airlock. Okay. So there are two kinds of airlocks that we keep it in the store. Just a minute. Sorry about the noise. So this is one airlock. This is called a triple three-piece airlock, and the second is an S-type airlock. Yeah, just a minute. Okay. Second is an S-type airlock. Just you can see both. Yeah, you can see both of them, right? So you can pick any one of the two, and if you don't want to buy an airlock, you can fabricate it there. Just Google for Carby Fermenter at aristom.com, and you will be able to find about 7-8 different ways in which you can fabricate an airlock at home in a very simple, inexpensive way. Now, when you talk about this S-type airlock, what you have to do is, this is nothing but a bent tube, so you need to load it with water. Okay. Okay, we have loaded this with water. Halfway through, both of the bubblers are loaded with water, and now this water forms a seal. So as the CO2 gets formed, it'll lift the water and it'll release the carbon dioxide, but the oxygen from outside cannot get inside. So I'll just show you. So I'm blowing some air to show you what will happen when the CO2 gets formed and how it gets expelled. The second type is the three-piece airlock. It's a little bit more complicated, little bit more expensive, but again, you're talking of 150 bucks, so it's not something that breaks the bank, right? So these are the three pieces. One, this is a lid, and this is a big lid. So 1, 2, 3. You can see the three pieces. You keep this here, and then you seal it here. So as you keep it here, this becomes something like a pressure cooker. So when as the pressure gets formed, this thing gets lifted. It'll release the air, and then it'll again go back in snugly, and it will seal it again. So it's nothing but a plastic version of your pressure cooker CT. And this other lid on the top has some holes on it. The whole idea is that if too much pressure is created, it will not lift your lid so much that it gets thrown off. So that's more like a protective thing. So this is how you can use the airlock. For the first 4 days, the fermentation is usually very vigorous. So I would not recommend you to use an airlock unless you are making a very, very small batch, which is like inside a bharni or a small pickle jar or a small glass jar. If you're making a decent size 5-6 liters kind of a vessel, first 3-4 days, don't worry about it. When you transfer it from primary to your secondary vessel, secondary fermenter, that time your fermentation rate goes down drastically. So that is where you need an airlock to ensure that the oxygen from outside does not go in and oxidize your wines. Okay. Next is siphoning and racking. Racking is nothing but a fancy word of siphoning. We covered that. How to measure alcohol concentrations, we talked about it. Transferring to the secondary. So transferring to the secondary, again, I'll give you this simple formula. You first make the juice. You can allow a little bit of the skins to be left over, so that it extracts, your wine extracts the tannins and the flavors and the body from it. And once all of it is done, after 3-4 days, when the fermentation rate slows down, you remove the pulp and all the sediments, and you transfer the wine to a secondary vessel which has an airtight lid on top of it. So that is called the transfer. Okay, after transferring to the secondary, you allow it to sit there for at least a month is what I would recommend, but some books will recommend you to set it longer, so that you allow the entire fermentation to complete out completely, one. And secondly, you also allow the wine to get cleared. Okay, naturally also the wine clears. If you are not able to be patient enough for the wine to clear naturally, then you would have to add pectin enzymes, you need to add bentonite, you need to add isinglass. Each of them will act on different kinds of haze that is created and will help you clear out your wines. How to clear out the next comes the bottling and the aging. Now, there's a myth that the older the wine goes, the better it is. Yes, fresh wines taste like bread. So they have the bread yeasty notes with them. So I would not recommend you, unless you are a toddy lover, to go for really, really fresh wines. What I would recommend you is that wait for a month. A month after fermentation is when the bready notes and the yeasty notes starts mellowing down. Then you need to take a sample to find out when is the right time. So you from 1 month, so 1 month, for some wines it is 1 month, for some wines it is 3 months. 6 months is a good enough waiting period for 80 to 90% of the wines, wherein most of the good flavors starts coming out. The complex biochemical reactions happens, because of which the wines doesn't not start tasting harsh, bitter. Those things will mellow down. If you that is for the sweet wines, the Goan port wines, and the most of the sweet wines which Indians like. If you want a dry wine, then 6 months is the minimum that I would recommend you to wait. 1 year is the ideal time. Okay, most of the wines which are made in India is a very hot country, which means that the aging also happens a little bit faster. 1 year is the best time. After that, it becomes dicey. If you have a good wine cellar, good temperature control chambers, you will be able to achieve better and better flavors. But if you are storing at room temperatures outside, then the heat damage of the wine will also start incurring. So 6 months to 1 year for a dry wine is what I would recommend. Last but not the least would be, what is a perfect way to share it with your friends and celebrate? Now, the perfect way to share with your friends, well, just call them over. It's a COVID time. No, most people are not socializing. If you have something which is interesting from them, I'm sure they will come over. They'll appreciate. If they can't come over, give them a bottle. Gift them. Do not sell them, but give them a bottle. Allow them to appreciate. Allow them to miss you in the special festive season, and be there. So, if you start now, and as I said, in 1 month you should be able to make a decent sweet wine, then I'm sure by Christmas you will have everything that is there. There are 40 days to Christmas. In 40 days, you would be ready with the perfect wine to be ready to be gifted to your friends. Thank you. If you have any queries, just log on to arishtam.com or email us at brew@arishtam.com, and we'll be happy to help you with whatever queries that you have. Thank you. I hope this video got recorded well. If it didn't get recorded well, I'm in a big soup. Thank you.